Welcome to this presentation on one of the most important founding principles of restorative education. Restorative education is an approach to education that supports growth and development. It's founded on the fact that education is the key to restoring lives. Essentially, if we are really to live as humans, we need to learn how to live. And as I'm about to discuss here today, that learning that enables us to live is done through problem solving. In earlier episodes, I spoke about the importance of having an actionable definition of intelligence. And I also spoke about this equation: neuroplasticity plus metacognition equals self-authorship. And that's really the big idea that just sort of underpins this whole theoretical approach of restorative education. Today, the concept I'm going to be talking about could be represented by a nice simple equation. This equation right here: learning equals teaching. But I'm going to be using the word mentorship instead, because this is the actual form that the practice of restorative education takes. Learning is teaching. That's not just a platitude. It's not a catchphrase. It's an observationally accurate way of representing what is occurring at all stages of learning. Any teacher will tell you, if you really want to learn something, teach it to somebody else. It's not a new revelation. Some of the earliest descriptions of education describe a student becoming a teacher. Think Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. That's demonstrated in the Western tradition, but if you go back even earlier, try to imagine even what the earliest educational experience would look like before agriculture, perhaps occurring at the dawn of hunter-gatherer society. You'll see the same setup: that learner who is going to one day be the teacher. And while this historical approach may suggest that teaching and learning are primal because of its early appearance as a form of education, there's an even more primal example. An example that is available to anyone who applies their natural aptitude for metacognition to investigate and observe how their learning occurs in their own mind. Because when you do this, you notice that when you are involved in learning, you're communicating to yourself. Maybe it's in words. Maybe it's in pictures. Maybe it's in flashes of inspiration. But when you are learning, you are in communication with yourself. For most of us, this is simply, talking with yourself, teaching yourself, mentoring yourself in the understanding that you need. For this reason, mentorship is fundamental to this idea of restorative education, because everyone can benefit from a skilled teacher who they can learn from. And sometimes, because that last part, where you have to be ready to learn from that person, you may find that the best teacher for you may not be a teacher at all. Plus, this is also why, regardless of who you are, you're going to find yourself in teachable moments where you are uniquely positioned to be the most effective teacher that can mentor this other person. Both individuals and societies can become confused into thinking that their knowledge of a subject and their ability to regulate the behavior that is related to that subject are the same. But we know actually they are different. One informs the other. And it's not always true that if you have one, you have the other. Plus, life can dish out experiences, painful experiences, deceptive experiences, conspiratorial experiences, but overall traumatic experiences that damage your ability to learn. And a good teacher can help you see that which you can't. That traumatic damage that you don't want to deal with because it's hard. They can help you with very specific problems also, with nuanced things that you're trying to learn or do. And these very specific things, when they get harder than what most people can deal with on their own, they need an experienced teacher. Teachers are the pros, the specialists in their subject and domain. As a mentor, in a very real sense, you are teaching. But more than that, you are supporting a person through a problem. So knowing the answer to that problem and being able to kind of teach that answer, well, that'll help. However, it is not a prerequisite. A mentor will sit with a mentee and help them move through a problem, even if they don't know the answer, because they understand that their role is in helping their mentee move through a problem. Sometimes the most valuable thing a mentor can teach their mentee is how to attack a problem you don't know the answer to. Sometimes the most valuable thing is just being in the room for your mentee to talk to as they struggle through a problem, so that they won't have to struggle alone. For example, we all know how to run. We can all draw the health benefits from running, but not everyone has to be a professional runner. But regardless, we all do have the gift of being able to run, and you should try to get as good at running as you can, because running has so many positive health benefits. However, unlike running, I believe our capacity for learning and teaching grows to a point where it just becomes profound as we age, particularly in a given field. That said, the mentoring that most of us will be called on to provide will be less formal, but by no means less important. This equation of learning equals teaching is represented in the act of mentorship in restorative education. You embody this first as a mentee and then as a mentor. A mentorship that everyone can do, regardless of age or background. It may be something that you're called on, or it may be just something you need to do. But human learning is built on mentorship, both our ability to mentor and be mentored. And everyone should have the opportunity to do both. Because it's not only how, we build subject knowledge, but it is also how we build that behavioral regulation needed to execute ever more complex tasks. This is how knowledge becomes integrated with action, but it's also how that action deepens our knowledge. Everyone deserves a mentor, a person who they know that they can count on for direction. But more than this, everyone deserves to be a mentor. That person who is counted on, a person willing and able to take a momentary leadership role in supporting another person in their learning and development. Learning is not confined to the classroom, and the best learning can occur in, what are called teachable moments. A truly restorative mentor will see these moments and seize them because they know how important they are. Often because they remember themselves when a mentor in their life seized that teachable moment. As a special education teacher, I cannot express to you how many students I have seen that have never gotten to have that special experience of mentorship. That one that so many of us receive from our mother or our brother or a neighbor or a friend, a teacher, or just a special person who is willing to accept the call and be our mentor. These students who come to school unable to connect with teachers or even their peers, unable to have a simple learning conversation, well, they're generally that way because they don't even know that that kind of learning exists, because they've never seen it. They've never experienced it. And there are a lot of teachers out there who never mentor because no one ever mentored them. And so their teaching doesn't include that element. This is where restorative education comes in, because the key to restoring lives through learning is through this process of being mentored to mentor. being willing to support, you in your problem solving. So, if you would like to learn more about metacognitive problem solving, how this kind of mentorship could help you, your classroom, or even a loved one, please reach out. Decades of peer-reviewed research show that the act of mentoring reduces anxiety, it changes gene expression, it builds self-regulation skills, and it develops leadership competence, not just in the mentee, but in the person doing the mentoring. Restorative education is putting this research into practice. Thank you.